Hey, my name is John Stanley, and I am making a series of videos on stroke recovery. I've been an organic farmer, and I also want to make some videos about gardening. And I was a minister for 20 years, and as an ordained minister, I'd like to talk about some life and death issues, faith and relationships and that kind of thing. So I look forward to you subscribing to my channel and liking a video. Well, let's get started talking about stroke recovery. And I wanted to begin by letting you know how my stroke occurred. I woke up on May 23rd of last summer, and I went with my little dog Blue. He is a blue Lacy, so we got very creative in naming him. We named him Blue, only his full name, because I love South Louisiana, is Boudreaux, not Boudreaux, but Boudreaux. And so eat a bowl of gumbo for me. Anyway, I got up on May 23rd and I went to my neighbor's Century Ranch. She's an 85-year-old widow, and there are a number of roads on her ranch. It's about 1,200 acres. So I ran over there, and that morning I ran 6 miles in a little over an hour. And so I was in pretty good shape for an old codger. And as I often do, I went up to her porch and we sat a spell and had a conversation. And she brought me out one of the little plastic water bottles. And after I drank it, I immediately threw it up. And I thought that is very odd because I almost never throw up. So then I did something very smart. I got in my pickup and drove home. Not very smart. I took a cognitive test last week and I came out wonderfully, but not good enough to drive because my reaction time is a little bit slow. And so it's very important that I not drive. And but on that occasion, I did drive home. And when I got home, I continued to throw up. And in a little while, I got real dizzy and I couldn't stand up. And I fell into one of my kitchen stools. And rather than do something like call my wife at that time, I scooted around on my butt on the floor for about 2 more hours. We all know that calling 911 immediately is very, very important. But I talked to my wife and I said, I think there's something wrong with me. I can't stand up. And she could hear on the phone and tell that something was wrong. And so she called 911, and before long, the EMS arrived at my door. So I put the dog in the crate, and they came in, and they put me in the back of the thing. And the first thing they did, my hair was pretty long at that time, but the first thing they did, and I do not think that EMS people go to barber school, but they buzzed my head. And so when I arrived at the hospital, I had no hair, except I had a rat tail. I don't know why they left that, but I kept it for months and months and months. I had a buzz cut and a rat tail. But they knew that I was having a stroke, and so they called San Antonio and they called Austin, and they had room for me in Austin. So they called a helicopter, and a helicopter took me from Gonzales to Austin that afternoon. And I remember getting into the helicopter very, very clearly. And my first reaction was, there are no back seats in this helicopter. That's really odd, but they put my stretcher into the helicopter and bolted or clamped it in. And then the EMS person came in. And I remember thinking, as we rode up the I-35 corridor, I remember seeing all the ranches and farms and the cattle and the stock tanks sparkling in the afternoon sun. And I thought, what a beautiful sight. And then we flew over Disch Falk Field, where Texas plays baseball, and we flew around behind the hospital and landed the helicopter. And when they took me into the emergency room, the doors opened and closed, and the lights went out. I mean, my lights went out on May 23rd, and I woke up sometime in September. So I think I must know a little bit about what Rip Van Winkle felt like. But the thing I wanted to focus on today is a very simple thing that every family member needs to have a conversation about. And that is, if you get admitted to the hospital, is there somebody who is conscious? They don't have to have any medical experience, but they need to be familiar with you. Is somebody in your family ready to go to the hospital with you and stay with you as long as you are there? Let me tell you why. Not long after I was released from ICU, I went into a Texas rehab facility. And when the staff changes, they come and they see somebody and somebody is unresponsive. They go, well, I've got 17 other patients on this floor who are unresponsive, but my wife and my daughter knew that if I was awake, I would be cracking jokes with somebody or performing for somebody. And so they said, somebody needs to come in here and check him because he is not like he was 12 hours ago. And so they came in, and sure enough, when they gave me blood thinners, it caused an ulcer, and I bled out into my body cavity, and my blood pressure crashed. And so when the staff came and looked at me, they realized I was in deep trouble. And so I got a blood transfusion and resuscitated. And somebody being familiar with me was a matter of life and death. And so I cannot stress to you how important it is that you get this decision made and that somebody in your family be ready and willing to go with you to the hospital. You may not be normal, but you need somebody who knows what's normal for you and can be with you in the hospital at all times until you come home. And so I think that is all I wanted to say for this video, but I do want to talk more about stroke recovery and some about gardening, and maybe I used to be a pastor, and so we may talk about some personal development and relationship sorts of things. So look for me in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.